Good morning, we are now live and welcome to, what lesson is it? Lesson 16, I think, of forest skills today. And it's snowing, it's actually snowing, which is why I've got a umbrella over the camera and over the laptop, and it's been a bit of a kerfuffle to set this up this morning. But what are we going to learn this morning? We're going to learn different methods of putting up a tarp, or a shelter basically. Now, if you've got an old military tarp, that's cool. If you've got one like this, which is a special sort of like shelter kit, then that's cool too. But basically what I'm talking about by a tarp is anything that is rectangle shape and has eyelets on the corners that you can erect as a shelter. Now, I obviously did a video on how to make a cover out of a dustbin liner, and that does mean that you can use anything. You can use your mum's best tablecloth if it's made out of lino. I've actually, in the Amazon, hired a guide who used a tablecloth as his basha and slept with me for about 2 weeks and walked with me, and all he used was a tablecloth, and he used the stone method and attached vine to it in order to get it. But you know, we're going to be using a conventional basha, so if you're joining in with me live, then please grab your basha. You're going to need string on each corner. I tend to put 4 meters on each corner. 4 meters I think is quite a lot, but it allows you to reach to things. And out here, especially where I'm doing the demonstration, there wasn't room inside, and I thought, well, I'm going to risk it with the snow, but I need especially long string. And then on the apexes I actually put 5 meters. So if you've got cordage and you're measuring it out, remember that 1 meter is from your nose to the tip of your fingers, and that's the amount. But you probably won't have time to actually rig up your tarp right now. I think that is something that you might have to do later if you've not already done it. But if you've got a tarp already prepared and you're going to have a bash at this at the same time as me, then that is brilliant too. Let's do a few shout outs now. Slightly different system. The Preacher Bear, as ever, first man online. Hi from Cornwall. Carl saying, morning Ed from Hubasties in Oman. Oban, not Oman, Oban. Or Oban, I'm not really sure how that's pronounced, but good morning, Carl. I do the walking pole with the tarp tent. Yeah, walking poles is a good option with a tarp. Morning Ed from Theo in Newark, hello mate. Morning from Casper and Kate in Forest Hill. Hi guys, hope you're all right this morning. A Preacher Bear saying a 3x3 tarp is good for fine for wild camping. Yeah, I mean, dimensions, it's got to be long enough to fit your body, and if it's not wide enough, we used to use a type in jungle expeditions that were really narrow, and they're designed for an old school type of hammock that went straight from tree to tree, but I hated the fact they were really narrow. It didn't give you enough room. So nice and wide obviously gives you a bit more flexibility. Morning from Georgia and Jamie in Leeds. I hope you're okay up there, and probably got lots of snow if we have down in Leicestershire. Hannah Martyr, bit chilly, but we've got the tarp ready. Hi to Wilf in Shropshire, hello mate. Hi from Jez, Ezzy and Matty in Cheshire, hello, thank you for joining us again. The Patsons. Morning from Sarah and Edith. Right, as I'm going through this, if you do have any questions, any dramas, if your tarp's falling down, then please do let me know. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab my tarp. Okay, so this one, because I've been playing around this morning trying to set up, I've not hanked the guy ropes, but I might as well run you through a very simple method for hanking the guy ropes, just while maybe anyone's going to go and get their stuff ready. So you start at the end that is attached to the tarpaulin. You have your fingers spread, and the really important thing to having your fingers spread, and you can be complicated this and make figure of 8, but I'm not going to show you that method. I'm going to show you a really simple method. Have your fingers spread so you can get your hands out at the end. Then you just close your fingers, slip your hands out, and it sounds stupid, but I've seen so many people start like that and then they can't get their fingers out at the end. So have your fingers spread and then go around like this. And as I said, you can do a figure of 8 if you really want to. I've never really found that necessary. And then when you've got about a foot left, you tie it round itself, making sure that you've got a bite on the last one, then you make a little loop with your finger. So you go over your finger, make a little loop, and the live end, it's quite difficult to do with gloves on, live end goes through that, and that's just called hanking a rope. But it's really good because it means that it doesn't get tangled up, doesn't it? And then obviously there's quick release methods and all sorts of stuff if you really want to, but that is the way I've always tied my hammock. Corners, even in the Amazon for 2.5 years, so it works and it's super simple. Right, everything done in gloves at the moment, so fingers crossed it's all going to work. My fingers are cold. Anything else? Anyone saying anything more? Last message was from Sarah and Edith. Morning in capital letters. Kim and Moss from snowy Scotland. Hi guys. Probably more snowy up there than it is me grumbling about half an inch of snow. Hi from Ben. Is it snowing where you are? Said the Pattersons. Well, it is here, yes. Morning Ed, sorry we're late. IT issues, the GH boys. Well, I'm glad you've got your IT sorted out, guys. Right, okay, the first one I'm going to show you is a conventional one. It's a apex, I suppose it will look like a ridge tent. It's got 2 apexes. Now on your tarpaulin, you've probably got eyelets on the corner, but hopefully you have also got at least eyelets on the apexes. So which means on one of the long sides, you'll have eyelets, and it's these ones that aren't on the corners that you're going to grab first of all, and I'm just gonna do that. So so we're going to do, if you remember when we were doing the improvised tarpaulin, we're going to do a round turn 2 half hitches, and hopefully you can hear me. I've got a remote mic on. So you've tied one of your apexes, round turn 2 half hitches. I'm going to have to go out of shot to tie the other one, but I'm then going to tie the other one as well. And you're making the ridge of a tent basically, or the ridge of a roof line. And I'm going to do that try and get that quite tight. Okay. Come back to the camera to just make sure you've got all that. So, okay, so I've tied the 2 bits that are not the corners, and I've tied it quite tight. Probably you're doing this between 2 trees if you're outdoors. If you're inside, you might be doing it between a doorknob and I don't know, a chair, something like that. But actually make sure it's an immovable object, because you want to get them quite tight. Then you want to peg out the 4 corners. Now the thing I would say with the 4 corners is when you peg them out, you can do this. You can do this high for a hammock, so that your floating roof is off the ground. You can also do this low, which is more like a conventional tent. So I'm going to come out, I would use pegs for this method normally, but because I'm on gravel here underneath the snow, I'm just going to tie it to my old weights discs. So I'm going to peg the 4 corners out now, but the main aim is to get it at 45 degrees. So if you've got your tarp here, you can see if you bisect that corner, you want to be coming out at 45 degrees. So you don't want to be coming out here, because you'll find you'll get big sags in the middle. You don't want to be coming in the same line as the ridge line, because again, you'll just get big folds. So you want to come out at 45 degrees. Now attach this however works for you in your situation. As I said, if I was on the ground, I'd probably be doing this, using tent pegs for this, but I'm using discs. Then come to your next one. And again, I'm doing round turn 2 half hitches here. Like so, and you can see already that it's taken the shape of a tent. This is the way we would have always done it in the military. It's nice and low to the ground. It's surprisingly warm, actually. I would say it's surprisingly warm, because if you are using pegs, it will sit snug to the ground, which will mean that it won't let the wind underneath. And you can see how my one isn't quite touching the ground, but that's because I'm using weights rather than pegs. And then I'll put the last one out. And as I'm tying this last one, I want you to know that my fingers are very cold. So there you have it. Now, made that quite low, but low is good. Low is warm. Okay, so you can see how if it's snug to the ground, and in the snowy conditions like this, you could almost pile the snow up a little bit so nothing comes under the bottom. Clearly, you're unlikely to be sleeping in a tarp in the snow. It's not a winter way of sleeping, but it makes a good den, allows you to get outside the elements. And as I said, in the military, we would have often used this. You can put upside down walking poles, as Preacher Bear was saying earlier on, into the eyelets on the apexes, and that gives it a bit of lift. And you could do that even after, so I could lift that now and put a pole in there. But that is the most straightforward and the most conventional, I would say, form of putting up a tarp. Right, has anyone got any questions on that bit so far? Morning to Jack and Phoebe. Hello guys. This is just what we wanted to see. Nice one. Thank you for a bit of moral support here in the snow. I had one question. Which is the best kind of lighter for the jungle? I mean, gas or petrol? Lighter for the jungle. Well, I use clippers. Have I got a clipper in my pocket? I think I might do. These ones, I'm not sponsored by Clipper, but they seem to work a lot better. And I would have one of these in the top of my rucksack, and I'd have multiple spares in my in the bottom of my pack, but double waterproofed, just to make sure. I think they're a very reliable lighter, more reliable than the ones with the spinning disc that can come out like a Bic. I wouldn't use those. Apologies to anyone who works for Bic. Weight Loss Pandas, morning Ed, hello. Hi Weight Loss Panda, thank you for joining again. Exploring with Macca saying hi. Looking snug. Best way to start the day, staff. Thank you very much, Mr. Lilac. All right, okay, so that's a conventional shelter. And I suppose one of them, maybe one of the limitations is that if you're using it in order to go outside for an experience, and maybe it's not that rainy, you might want more of a view out of it than that little gable end there, which is obviously, so if you want the warmest, I'd go for this, right? And I'd actually do it with pegs into the ground, and then that's nice and warm. And it's surprising how your body heat does get reflected back. Much warmer than a high tarp where all the heat dissipates. Okay, but I am now going to convert this one into one with a bit more of a view. So if you see this side of the tarpaulin, I'm just going to lift that. So I'm going to undo a couple of the lashings, bear with me, and then I'm going to lift it, and it is going to provide a similar sort of shelter but with one side open. So this is the second variant. And that's the thing about these tarps, is they are so versatile. You can do so much with them. I've been using them quite a lot. Sorry, I'm actually behind the camera now because I've got to attach this up here. But I've been using them quite a lot in keeping the cameras dry while I've been doing these lives. I say a lot, I've used them a couple of times. Okay. So very quickly you can see that this is again taking shape, and let's go to the corner here. And we've already got a different type of structure. So if you're under here, you've now got not 360 view, but you've got all the view all the way around. So if you're camping and you want to look for wildlife, this is a really nice method. I go a little bit higher than I've gone. Obviously that's touching my forehead, but if you raise this side a little bit more, it'll even keep light drizzle off. You don't want to make it too flat, obviously, that probably goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you make a flat tarp, then it's going to collect water. Now that might be what you want to do. If you're in the Amazon, often we would use our tarpaulins or our bashas, as we used to call them in the army, to collect water. And if you've got a tarp up and it hoofs it down with rain, a couple of times I've been absolutely saved by the water that's running off the tarpaulin. So I'd literally, on all four corners where the water's running down, I'd put a little Tupperware container or a water bottle or a metal mug, and I put one on all the four things, and I'd be running around filling my water up, and absolutely life-saving, because if you think about it, you want the biggest surface area possible to catch water, so you're never going to be able to make something out of leaves or natural materials which is as good at collecting water as a tarp. So secondary use of a tarp, especially if you're in the jungle, is fresh water, and rainwater tastes so much better than river water, which has got iodine or chlorine or whatever you decided to purify it with. So if you've got rainwater, you don't have to purify it, and then you glug it down in the rain and you're laughing and smiling about something as simple as drinking water, but it is so lovely. Right, so that's the second method with a bit more of a view, a room with a view. Let's see if there's any more hellos. Hi from Kai again in Mutsumi, that's Japan. Thank you for joining us. I do appreciate it, guys, all of you guys who are tuning in from all over the world, but also who keep coming back. The moral sport is fantastic. I hope this is useful in terms of entertaining the kids. Probably a difficult one to join in live, I do acknowledge that, but it does give you something, even in the snow, that you can go out and do this afternoon. So that's quite cool. Oliver, say good morning, Ed. Hi. What sort of tarp is it? It's actually made by the Denkit company, but this isn't really an advert for that. Any military or tarp that you would buy from an outdoor shop will work. And as I said, if you really don't want to spend money on something like that, you can also use a plastic sheet. I did a lesson on a bin liner. That's a bit extreme, but I think that was the point I was making. And as I said before as well, I've had guides in the jungle who have used tablecloths, and that's worked well too. Okay, that is two methods. I'm now going to do a little bit more of a fancy method, if I can get it to work. I'm going to undo a few of these tarps, and I'm going to demonstrate one which has got a very, very high front. And it's an introduction to actually using a tarp on a diagonal as well. So up until now, this has been using the tarp in its rectangular, rigid format, which is the way I would always have done it in the military. But you can put it on an angle. And one of the reasons for putting it like a diamond, I suppose, so your apex becomes corner to corner rather than the middle of the side to the middle of the side. It becomes like a diamond or a ray with floating wings. And one of the reasons for doing that, if you use a hammock which has got shock cord elastic on the sides that pulls out to the sides, it's actually a diamond shape. It's wider in the middle than it is at the ends, and so actually putting your tarpaulin on an angle so that it's on a diamond is a really good way of rigging this type of square hammock over a, say, for example, a Hennessy hammock or a DD hammock. So we're going to have a go at doing this. Literally, you can see in the time I've put that, the snow on the tarpaulin. This is live. What could go wrong? Right, I have to change a few things around, but I'm going to chat while I'm doing this. Theo's own bushcraft guide is filling up. That's great. Nice one, Theo. Hello from Brazil. You must be watching this in the middle of the night if you're in Brazil. Don't want to think what you're doing up at this time of night, but hopefully you're all right. Hello to everyone in Brazil. Right, so let's change a few things around. This corner I'm going to put back to, there's weight on the floor, and I want this to be as low to the ground as possible. I'm going to do it up quite tightly, because this method I'm about to show is it's actually quite, you need quite a lot of tension to make it work. So, I'm going to undo my apexes. If you're joining this live, which I doubt you are, but you don't need the apex cords attached at all for this model, this method actually. Okay, and then the last one I'm going to detach is the main one, which is behind the camera. Somehow in the course of that I've cut myself. Can you see that? Got blood on my finger. Running around doing stuff, cut myself. Never mind. Not going to kill me. Right. So as I said, this one is I'm going to use it as a diamond shape. So the back I've left attached, which is attached to the fence right at the back there, and then the front bit I'm actually going to attach to a pole. So just by complete chance, I happen to have a pole which I prepared earlier actually, if I'm being honest. So I'm going to do a very simple clove hitch on this. If you can't remember the clove hitch, remember we're making 2 loops in the rope, or 2 ears of a bunny rabbit. The way I teach is that the second one goes behind the first one and then they slip down over. Now if you didn't get that from this distance, no dramas. If you want to watch it again, go back and watch the lesson that I did on how to make a shelter out of a dustbin liner. Okay, and then we're gonna pop this up, and as you can see, the side ones will have to be moved, but you can see how such a simple thing like a tarpaulin can be so versatile. So I'm then going to pull this out a bit to the side, pull this one out, get that string out of the way. This is where the dogs go to the loo, and so I'm slightly worried that somewhere underneath the snow is going to be a big dog poo. But look at that. So you've actually got a shelter here which is touching the ground at the back and the sides, and obviously mine isn't touching the ground, but these could be pegged in so that you've got no wind coming in from the back at all. So a really nice shelter, but then it can actually stand. Imagine I'm on lookout and I've got my binoculars and I can stand up under this shelter. I could have a fire out the front. It's big enough to actually sleep in as well. So that, again, is a really nice, diverse shelter, and completely different. The whole thing looks so different, doesn't it, than a traditional ridgeline sort of shelter. So I've swapped it round. I'm just using the 4 attachments on the corners, and I've got the addition of a big pole. So even though you might be thinking, as I was when I set it up this morning actually, I was thinking, how can you get that high? You don't need to get that high. You put a clove hitch on, you attach it to a pole, you put the pole up high, and then you use the string like a guy line on a tent. And the reason it stays up is because of the guy line. Okay, so that is the third that is the third method. Has anyone got any questions on this? So Brazil was the last comment, wasn't it? Is there any more marooned or first man out planned? We've watched literally everything. Love it. Yes, there is. Right. So obviously everything was cancelled last year because of coronavirus, which was a bit rubbish. But First Man Out Series 3 has been commissioned. It's been green lit as well, which traditionally would mean it's definitely happening, but it's COVID. So, you know, I think the first 2 episodes, fingers crossed, will be in Africa, because that's a country that you can travel to at the moment. But yes, First Man Out is commissioned. Latter episodes will be in Asia, probably China as well, because because there's loads and loads of really supportive influences in China, which is great. But yeah, it is happening, fingers crossed, and we'll be filming in a month or two. So that's exciting. It's not marooned. I'd love to do a series of marooned again, but the appetite is for the races, the excitement of the competition seems to be a winner. You make it look so easy, but it's not. That's from Diana. Diana, it is easy. That is a simple thing. It's okay. So you've got a round turn 2.5 hitches attaching the string to the actual tarp, or you can use a fisherman's knot, which is actually what I did, but you could use a granny knot at that end. It doesn't really matter because you're only going to have to tie it once. So you've got a basic knot to attach the string to the tarp. Then it's a round turn of 2.5 hitches all the time at each one of those attachments, and I have got a clove hitch in the top there, but it's really basic knots and it's not unachievable. So so please don't be put off by it. Somebody, Mr. Lilac says famous last words. I'm not sure what that was a reference to. Question about equipment, just to know what things you used for expeditions. People, including me, don't know where to buy high quality equipment like a hammock or lighter. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I didn't want to be dismissive about that, and sometimes I do take things for granted that people know. This came from Denkit Company. Again, it's not an advert, but they are good. They're a reputable company. They're British, and they're nice people as well. But you can get ex-army and navy stores, ex-military supplies, eBay. If you literally type in bushcraft tarp or something like that, you will you'll be able to get it. Very functional and effective. Hannah says, love that. Thank you, Hannah. What would you use as an insulator on the ground? We usually use an old roll mat. Roll mats are brilliant, aren't they? Because they're closed cell foam, basically, and that's what provides the insulation. Even though I use a inflatable sleeping mat, if I was camping in the snow, I would put a foam mat underneath, and that's a far more insulating layer. So when I slept on the streets for 60 days, which was a project I did for Channel 4, I very quickly, initially I used cardboard to insulate my own below, and if you think about cardboard, it's paper, but it's 2 layers of paper, and it's got a sort of corrugated bit on the middle, and then it's got a layer of air in the middle, and the air was really important for insulation. So if you're absolutely desperate, you could use cardboard, but it gets wet and it gets soggy, which I soon found out, so I found myself I'm still bleeding. Found myself a roll mat. Actually, they were being given out because there was loads of stuff being given out to homeless people. So found myself a roll mat and then slept on that, and then I was comfortable for most of it. And actually, one of the times I got cardboard boxes and ended up sleeping in the cardboard boxes, which again was something that our local scout troop did recently, or just last year. They raised money for a homeless charity, and all slept outside in cardboard boxes outside the scout hut, which is cool. And I know there's a scout challenge on at the moment, isn't there, which is all about can you sleep outside? And I think, you know, bronze level is something is sleeping outside in your greenhouse or in your shed. Silver level is sleeping outside and making yourself in your shed or your garage and making yourself supper. And I think gold level is sleeping outside in a shelter that you've built yourself out of natural materials, and cooking yourself supper and breakfast or something like that. But it's great to be encouraging people to sleep outside, especially in this weather, you know. If you have got an insulated mat and you have got a warm sleeping bag, it's all achievable. And obviously the addition of a fire, if you've got an adult to supervise you, and in fact, I'm not going to be advocating getting outside and sleeping in the snow if you're not supervised by an adult, but if you've got an adult supervising you, it can be really snug in the winter when it's snowing and you're by the fire and you just feel like you're winning. It's a bit like if you're in a hammock in the torrential downpour and you're not getting wet, you just feel like, yes, I am combating nature and I am winning. And in the same way, when it's freezing cold, and I've been down to about minus 37 degrees so far in Siberia, that was where I actually got frostbite in my toes. But that was a long story, which I won't go into now. How did you secure the ends? Did you add another knot? Okay, so all of the ends are round turn 2.5 hitches, because of the fact that the tarp's actually further away from the camera than when I was doing the indoor lesson on the improvised tarp out of the dustbin liner. I would say please go back to that lesson or just Google round turn 2.5 hitches. It's a very useful knot to know. Jez Knowles says, this is a great one, thanks. Diana says, hello Ed, wonderful channel, definitely love learning from you, thank you. Wow. Africa, says Diana again. Different Diana though. Can you use a military style poncho instead of a tarp? Of course you can, yeah. Military style poncho is absolutely perfect. What we found in the jungle is some volunteers used to come with a poncho being, it's a tarp with a hole in the middle with a hood on it, and so you could put your head in it, and so it covers you and keeps you dry as a outer shell basically. They do leak through their hoods, so if you are using a poncho you have to tie the hood up really tight, and often in the jungle a simple way of getting it is get a big flat leaf and just lay it on top, which means that the direct rain isn't going to actually contact the hole, and that's a nice method as well. If you've ever got holes in a tarpaulin and you're in the jungle, big leaves over the top and that will keep you dry. Could you give a shout out to radio podcaster Matt Morgan, mate of mine and fan of yours who you've met a few times. Hi Matt, hope you're okay mate. Matt is, was Russell Brand's radio producer. What size tarp are you using there? I don't know. I'm going to say 3x3 because Preacher Bear said that earlier today. It's a standard size. It's a standard size. It's not overly large or anything like that. Looks big, doesn't it? Quite frankly, set up like that especially. But it's a standard tarp for sleeping under. So a standard military tarp. And I would say, even if you're buying for kids, don't buy smaller than that, because you can use it as well. And also you can have multiple kids sleeping under one shelter, which is obviously much more fun and warmer as well, because you're all sharing each other's body heat, which is nice. A nice thing to do. Get yourselves to the Bushcrafting Survival Show and hopefully it will happen this year, says Kev. I will do, mate. Is there any problem with making a bonfire under the tarp, says Kai from Japan. It's about the level of experience you've got and the degree of trust you have in how much you can control your fire. As this is a lesson primarily aimed at kids, I would say no as a standard rule. If you've got this sort of setup, bring the fire forward to at least about here, so that it doesn't set your tarp on fire. Never use a stove in a tent, all of that sort of stuff. And yet, as you go up through the ranks, and for example, polar explorers, of course they use their stoves in their tent because they've got to melt snow, and they're melting snow for a couple of hours in the morning and a couple of hours in the evening. And so all of these rules are made to be broken. Yes, you can. We had a tarpaulin set up like this, a high one as our cooking tarpaulin in the Amazon, because it rained all the time. It's the Amazon, it's a rainforest, and it rains all the time. And when you're cooking, you don't want to just be drenched the whole time. And so what we'd do is we'd set it up in the first configuration that I did. Then we get two wide poles, really long ones, and put it up really high. And then that obviously reduces the likelihood of it burning or any sparks making holes in it. But yeah, just be careful is the honest answer, and always have adult supervision. Hannah says yes, it's 3x3. Thank you, Hannah, for confirming that. Rucksacks from Macpac or somewhere else. Big one you use in the jungle. I did use a Macpac in the jungle. Again, this isn't about brands and who to buy from. But as I've mentioned, one brand, I might as well balance it out. Fjallraven are also good. Very heavy rucksacks, but very comfortable rucksacks. Osprey make really good packs as well. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies, but I would say less bells and whistles. You want a pack to be comfortable, you want it to be big enough for the purpose, you want it to be able to carry weight, especially if you're carrying heavy weight, but you don't need loads of bells and whistles and zips and stuff. There's more to go wrong, basically, I would say. Can't wait till it's a little warmer. It looks cold. Yes, well, it is quite chilly here this morning, but we've got through the lesson and it is 10:34, which is brilliant. Ideal timing. There's 3 different methods of making a shelter. Please do not be put off. I don't think the only thing you can do in the snow is a snowball fight or a build a snowman. You can make shelters, and this is a really nice thing to do outdoors. Hopefully that was of some use. As I am an adult, who's going to supervise me, Ed? I am busy today, but otherwise I'd come around and supervise you. If you are an adult, please don't get adult supervision. Please take responsibility for yourself, and if you come to any harm, then it's your fault. Okay, good. Love the shows. I've watched everyone since 60 Days on the Island. Thank you very much. That was from Paul, 1983. I'm going to finish it there, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. On Friday, we've got another lesson at 10. If you've got any ideas, please message me on Instagram or write a message on one of the posts, and we will try and incorporate it as much as possible. Obviously, loads of people wanted cordage, which is why on Monday, Stephen did a session on natural cordage. Not easy at this time of year, but he did extraordinarily well, I think, getting the bark, the underbark out of a willow tree and demonstrating that. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a lovely day in the snow. If you're working, then apologies to you and you've got to stay inside. But if you are able to get outside today, particularly if it's snowing where you are, then I hope you have an amazing day. Cheers, guys.